In the heart of upstate South Carolina, two passionate car enthusiasts, Ted and Lionel Brown, have dedicated their lives to a unique piece of automotive history, the Chevrolet Corvair. A rear-engine marvel produced from 1960 to 1969, the Corvair gained notoriety from Ralph Nader's "unsafe at any speed." Yet it has captured the hearts of many, including members of CorsaSC, the upstate South Carolina Corvair Club. Ted has made a name for himself in the Corvair community by creating upgrades, like an electric fuel pump kit that brings modern reliability to these classic cars. Both Ted and Lionel have been tinkering with Corvairs since their youth, but today we delve into their latest venture, manufacturing cast aluminum parts right in their backyard. The duo has perfected the lost foam casting process for producing these aluminum parts. Embracing the challenge of enhancing performance, they've decided to take a bold step forward by introducing fuel injection technology to their beloved 1960s models. If it's unsafe at any speed, then it might as well be unsafe at maximum speed, they joke. How hard could it be to make their own parts? During a cast party in July 2024 in Anderson, South Carolina, club members gathered to witness this fascinating technique firsthand. As carburetors became increasingly rare and expensive, Ted and Lionel realized the importance of creating their own injection adapters, preserving both functionality and originality. 2 years later, on a sweltering 95-degree day, the backyard buzzes with excitement. Ted initiates the process with a 3D CAD drawing, which he uploads to a CNC machine, crafting a positive mold from expanded polystyrene EPS foam. This foam will create the void for the hot aluminum during casting. As the EPS mold is prepared, Lionel tends to the propane-fired crucible, heating scrap aluminum to a molten state. In about 15 minutes, the aluminum reaches the target temperature of 850 degrees Celsius, almost 1600 degrees Fahrenheit. Dressed in protective gear, Lionel carefully lifts the molten metal from the crucible using specialized tongs. He deftly pours it into the Petrobond-filled sand mold, ensuring a clean casting by preventing sand contamination.
Normally when we start this process, it's just a continual process because we take one, dump it, wait 10 minutes because you have to wait 10 before it's really solidified. And then we dump it out, pull the part, and then reuse the sand.
So you keep this going for hours?
Yeah, all the time we're using is propane
And,
in our time.
Because what we just reuse the sand, but the sand you have to watch. If you're doing a lot, you need a lot of buckets because the sand gets hot.
Because it's so hot.
And then if you pour the hot sand in, it melts to polystyrene, then you got a whole kind of mess.
That sounds like a...
limited how many you can do at a time.
That's why we got 6 buckets. But I was planning on having a lot more stuff here, which would have gave us about a pour of about 15 pieces before this sand got too hot. My daddy thought he was. Now my dad
legs in such good shape. I'd push Corvair off.
He was out around.
Yeah.
My daddy thought he was the smartest man in the world.
He was on
And he was on cast iron V8s, 283s, and all that stuff. That Corvair just baffled him. So when the heads were leaking on it, he done what any Corvair, any car mechanic do. He tightened the heads up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Put about 90 pounds. About 90 pounds of torque on them heads, fixed them.
Pop.
So anyway, that thing would run about 3/4 mile from the house and then overheat. So my dad, he figured out it was the reason it was overheating. It wasn't enough air, not the heads. So he tightened the belt up on that fan. Well, he fought that fan so much, that car had enough. So it bit my daddy back. It cut the end of these 2 fingers off. And took the tip of that one off.
Yeah, so did.
I remember me and Peanut was standing in the yard when it happened.
Quarter.
We use a
Okay.
regular tin can, okay? You have from a can of beans or something like that.
Yeah.
The top, if a little falls out, it's not that critical. But how we make this is we just take a lid
Yeah.
off a jar,
Yeah.
put this in. This is the same diameter as that styrofoam.
As the handle?
Is
Or
the
what do you...
extension on that. You remember the thing sticking up out of the sand?
Yeah.
So what we do, I just stick it in here, and this is not an exact science. And you just put a little in here at a time. And what you're trying to do is make a mold. Just pack it around. And I just get it to a point to where I'm comfortable with it. Pack it some more. The stuff has got a little bit of stickiness to it. That's what holds it together.
Yeah.
And I have to wet it. Sometimes you see the moisture on it. I have to wet it.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like clay.
It is.
Powdered.
It's
Yeah,
close.
I was going
And
to
then
say,
what I do-
looks like my backyard.
And then I just sit here and work this so I can pull it out without it collapsing on me. And the reason I do this, you remember Ted when he put it on there and it broke off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing keeps that from happening. And if I'm not real comfortable with it, I take my finger and kind of press it around the side so I can actually just slide it over top of it.
Gotcha. So there's just little spacing between the edges of the Petrobond and the piece that you're putting it onto. Okay.
And then you just take this, push it out.
Huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
the clearance in the back.
Yeah, and you got your clearance to sink it into the sand. And this right here, once I do that, I can just take it and get this loose stuff with my finger or thumb.
Uh-huh.
Pack it around just a little bit because this is not going to do any damage to the mold at all. Okay, and that's all there is to it.
And then what purpose does that stuff
That
serve?
keeps the sand out of the mold when you pour the metal into it. See, before we just had a can sitting on top of it.
Okay.
And when we pour the molten aluminum in it, it would drag sand down into the mold. This right here creates a channel and keeps the sand from entering the mold.
Okay. Genius.
We'll make it ready. All right, go for it. Impurities float to the top.
And you'll remove those. A lot of impurity there.
Yeah, well, a lot of that is oxidation from the aluminum because it's set out
See a dark color, yeah.
and then the other stuff, that's the paint, and mostly oxidation. You could technically melt that stuff and get a little bit more aluminum out of it.
Yeah.
Low and easy line out. Perfect. Perfect speed. Keep forward. Mind you speed up. Perfect. That's what happens when you force them down and they're not well compacted.
That's what that Petrobond does for us.
Oh, but
And,
it's still
but it
melted
still had
together
enough
as one
path
piece.
that it
Okay.
made it.
It's sand.
Yay.
Not as fast this time. Perfect. Keep forward, keep forward.
At the end of the casting process, Ted and Lionel are left with a rough aluminum casting that, once smoothed and trimmed, will become the foundation for a fuel injection system that helps to keep these classic cars on the road with 21st century technology. In the garage, a completed TBI sits in a turbocharged 1963 Monza Spider, ready for action. It starts instantly, purring like a finely tuned engine, and performs flawlessly through sharp corners. Preliminary tests confirm it runs like a scalded dog, a testament to their hard work. Ted and Lionel are instrumental in pushing the technology boundary for the Corvair, and with their help, will bring more of these back to life. For more information on brown fuel injection for your Corvair, visit www.corvair-efi.com.